at this point. I'm Mark Mahovlich. I'm Director of Professional Services and Support for Internet Content Management. So in that role, I spent a lot of time traveling the country, meeting with good folks like you, determine what's going on inside their enterprises, where they're challenged, where they're having success, and I try to help them where I can, and I learn from them. So this presentation really is a lot of work over about a 10-year period, generally driven around information-centric security and the need for that in the marketplace. And we've certainly developed some strategies from that. You may like it, you may not, right? It's an approach. So I certainly would like your feedback here. I'm a pretty interactive guy, so hopefully you won't fall asleep. But if you have questions, ask them, and we'll move through this as quickly as we can, and as painlessly as we can. I look forward to this again. Thank you. So what are we going to discuss today? So we're going to run through and understand what the current state of the environment is today as it relates to the security landscape and cyber defense. Where are we winning? Where are we losing? Why is that occurring? Then we're going to move forward into some trend information of where we think things are going over the next decade. Some of that's happening today in small pieces. Some of it's happening today in big pieces, right? And it is affecting you. Then we're going to look at what we call modern threat defense strategies, right? And we're going to explain to you how we take our approach to defending the enterprise, both from external threat actor as well as the malicious insider, which are probably the two primary things we're concerned about these days. And obviously we can ask as many questions as you want. So current state, keep going, thank you. So to get to where we need to go here, I like to start back a little bit, right? And how do we evolve, and how do we achieve what we have over the last 20 plus years? So if you look at the 80s and 90s, the world of information technology was one of automation, right? So it was the reign of ERP, distributed network systems, efficiency, operational efficiency, do more with less, make more money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What happened, of course, is you saw information technology move from the back room of an enterprise, where the guys, maybe some of you are still locked down there, but used to be IT was in the basement behind a door. Business line would come down every once in a while, need something, shove some food, some pizza underneath the door, right? And you'd crank it out, and everybody was happy. Once you became integral to the business, to the success of the business, IT moved up, right? Suddenly the CIO sat on the board, C-level positions. It was necessary, right, for IT to sit there because of the way businesses are run today. So I don't know exactly who it was, but somewhere in the 90s or so, I think it was the CEO of Levi's was giving an interview in Forbes or CIO magazine or one of those publications, and there was a statement there that stuck in my mind. This is about 94 or 95. And he said, if you're CEO of a corporation and you don't understand the value of information technology to the organization, you can't be CEO anymore. So my argument to you folks is I think the world is changing. And we've all seen some of what current threat is doing in the world, right? Both from a business perspective, Target, Sony, right? As well as nation state, right? ISIS attacks, North Korea attacks, China attacks. So the world's changing. So my argument, I think we're in a watershed moment. And I think the next decade, maybe two, for us, is going to be defined by security. Organizations will start to value security over operational efficiency. So I'm making the same statement today. If you're CEO of a major corporation, I argue any corporation, and you don't understand the value of information security and how to protect your primary assets and your consumers, you can't be CEO anymore. So we expect IS as a component of IT to move up as well, separate, become its own board position, et cetera, right? So traditional thinking has always been protect the network, protect the hard asset. Why? From a business line perspective, it's what makes us money, right? Can't survive without email. Email is probably the most critical business application in the minds of the business line that we have today, right? 20 years ago, that was not the case. But they can't survive without it. And they value that. So we defend that. And they understand defending that, right? And that's where we spend our money, our time, our energy, are in those areas. Move forward. What occurred because of that? And I'm as guilty as everybody else, so I'm not picking on anybody here. Last 15 years, the strategy has been defense in depth, right? Layer your security, best of breed technologies everywhere, defend, 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 don't let anything in. What we really got was expense in depth. It's unmanageable. Proof in point, and I hate to pick on them because everybody does, but Target. Target didn't fail because of a lack of stack and a lack of technology. They knew. There was stuff, alarm bells going off everywhere, right? There's a lack of process to determine what do we do after the fact. So when we look at defense, cyber defense, and we look at primary areas and we look at the ability to defend the network, the ability to detect what's happening inside a network, our ability to make a decision or decide what's happening in the network, and then our ability to go defeat something, kill it, we're failing. We defend, fine. When we get into the inside, it's all over. And it's unmanageable. Why is it unmanageable? Too many solutions, right? You can't keep up. You're on maintenance schedules and upgrade schedules and installation schedules that if you made a decision today, I'm going to guess most of you would take 1 year to 2 years to deploy a security technology. Your competition, the cyber criminal, gets up this morning and decides with his buddies to crack you. Right? So they meet at Starbucks in Hungary, and they sit down and they have a virtualization expert and a firewall expert, application expert, database expert. Let's go crack whoever. Let's go make $6, $7, $10 million. They're highly motivated. They have no jobs. They have families to feed. And they're highly skilled. I can't get those 6 guys in one of your organizations to meet for lunch today. Think what the effort level is to do that, right? And they alone get them to coordinate and decide, this is how we're going to defend today. So you're losing. You're not nimble. You're not motivated. It's just not working. Let's move forward. So one of the primary reasons we're losing is we're valuing that hard asset, right? So we're defending the network. We're defending our servers. We're defending our desktops. Fight, defend, stop cyber threat from invading us. The reality is the threat actor could care less about your network. The network's just a way to move a piece of packet of information from one place to another, right? It's processing, it's computing. Why do we have all that? We have all that because we consume data, right? But data is really information. You hear me use the term information a lot. And a little lesson for all of you in the room, when you're up talking to business line, don't say data. Data's meaningless. It has no value. That's an IT problem. Information or information asset has a value, right? And what the cyber criminal knows, whether it's malicious insider or the external threat actor, is your information has value to it. That's why they want it. They can sell it. They can make money from it. They can copy your plans for your next car or your next computer or your next Windows system and make money from it. And that's why they want it. So you're busy defending the network. You're busy defending your hard systems. They're attacking your information. How do I know this is happening? It's me saying it. There's some of my proof, right? Not my numbers, they're Ponemon numbers. And I'm smart enough to read a bar chart. Light blue on the top, dark blue on the bottom. Light blue is in the past, dark blue is most recent. The trend lines are going up. On the left, the cost of cybercrime is increasing. It's happening more and more often. Or it's happening in greater quantities, right? Less attacks, but more profitable attacks for the cyber actor. Those trend lines aren't good. You're losing. Converse that on the right-hand side, look at the cost to defend, which also is going up. Expense and depth, right? Buying more. Have a problem, throw more technology at it. I'm a technologist, so I love technology. We all do. But it's not always the answer. More is not always the answer. But that's what we do. We'll just buy another firewall. Or we'll change the firewall we had. Or we'll buy more of this. And then somewhere in your organization, your CISO is walking into a meeting and sitting down with the board, and the board is saying, we spent $10 million on cyber defense last year, and we still got breached. Fix it. And your CISO says what? Give me more. Come on, follow along. What? More?
Money.
Yeah, right? And the board says, we gave you $10 million. Fix it. This is the dance we're doing, right? So it's hard to get funding. It's hard to get them to pay attention when you keep failing, right? And then if you look at how, it's hard to see, but by industry, who's spending the most? Some of that on the top you would understand. But look on the bottom, right? Come about a third of the way up from the bottom. Healthcare, education. These are some of the most breached industries there are. And they're investing the least amount of money. Forward, please. So we're failing. That's the message. We all know that, I think. Right? So what we're looking at here is we're looking at dwell time. A very important statistic, a metric, in my opinion. How long does the threat actor have inside your environment to do what he wants to do, he or she? Right? The top number is the average number of days to detect an external threat actor. 170 days. That's the day he gets in to the day you find him. Over on the right in that chart is days to resolution. So you found him. Now you got to hunt him down, kill him. And that's taking you another, on average, probably 60 days. So that's 230 days in the network. The bottom number is the malicious insider, the person who has privileged access into your environment, and the amount of dwell time they have before they're detected as being a problem. Add those two numbers together, that's a year. So you're all intelligent people. You all move around inside your networks all day long. You tell me, how much damage could you do in a year undetected? Big concern, right? So again, focus and understanding. And this is not to beat us up, right? It's reality. Sometimes you got to hit people between the eyes with reality. You're losing. Why are you losing? Life has changed. The way we compute, the way we interact with data, the way we use data, the way we use information has changed. We're not keeping up, right? So the world's changing around us, and we're still defending the way we defended a decade ago. So necessarily here, the message, we'll get into it later, is not one of spend more. It's spend differently and achieve more. Transform your environment. So back to insider threat. Stats here are a little soft right now, right? It's not a number that we've seen people track because it's starting to become trendy over the last few years, right? So we're starting to collect more and more information, create some metrics here. But look at the insider threat frequency of occurrence that's happening. And I believe that number in 2013 is going to jump. I don't think everybody's reported yet. Or they're hiding it for various reasons, as you can imagine. Lawsuits and legal actions occurring. Right? So I expect that number to go up. The frequency is very high. And we're going to get into why in a minute, right? And we'll deal with that in a few minutes, and we'll show you why the insider threat has grown. And it's a factor of economics and a factor of social culture. Let's move forward. Here's a really interesting stat. So me, I'm looking at the insider threat equation, seeing it grow in the marketplace, and I sit down and I say, well, how does that occur? And my mindset, probably like most of you, is that most insider threat activity occurs outside of the organization. Meaning, like myself, I travel, right? A lot of people probably here do. Certainly, business line does. So my assumption is, like myself, if I were going to steal something, which I won't, but if I did, I would do it off network, right? Do it at my home, do it at a hotel, wherever. That's not the case. Most insider threat occurs inside the environment, in your network. Move forward. So, again, where are we investing? What are we getting? Where are we spending our time, our energy, our money? Over on the left-hand side, this chart explains the cost of annualized cybercrime based on the frequency of attacks, so normalizing the number per occurrence, right? So certainly DDoS, denial of service on the top, makes sense. Next down, we have malicious insiders, malicious code, web-based attacks. Those are your top four, and they probably make up the majority of threat that you're facing today. What are you investing in? Network defense. It has some value in the denial of service side, right? But are you really putting your time and energy into technologies, resources, people that are actually going to defeat the problem? I'm telling you no. Because those two things don't match, right? Why do we do that? Think of the way budgets work. Think of the way process works inside an organization. How many of you have antivirus solutions in your organization? Don't be shy. I'm going to pick on you. Okay, most of you, right? You buy them every year. Renewal rolls around, you buy it again. How many of those antivirus solutions are actually effective? Very few. Right? Everybody's got varying stats on it. You can go look it up yourself, do your own research, right? I'm going to tell you they're about 40% effective. But you keep rebuying those technologies and expecting it to defend when it's failing. You have to transform. You have to change your thinking. People have IDS, IPS, I'm certain, right? In your organization. How many of you thwarted modern malware at the IDS, IPS level in the last 2 years? It's an honest question, guys. And I think you know the answer, right? So where we defend today does not meet up to threat. Move forward. Then we get into just kind of internal factors, right? I won't go over this in too much depth there. But it basically comes down lack of focus, lack of knowledge, right? Lack of resources. Anybody here work 40 hours or less a week? You do. Good for you. You must be doing something right, right? There you go, right? So we're challenged, right? We don't have enough people. I don't know anybody in the last few years in most organizations I've walked into that say, hey, Mark, do you know a whole bunch of really good IS people? Because I got recs out and funding established to hire 5 more people. I haven't seen it happen yet. You might get one. Usually none, right? And good luck finding them. We'll get into that in a little bit too. And it takes time and energy to fight modern threat. It's easy for me, right? I get paid to sit and think and determine some of this stuff and look at roadmaps for technologies and look at providers and talk to people that are facing challenges every day. You don't. You're fighting fires all day long. So it's really hard to sit down and think about what should I be doing. Let's move forward. So let's look at some of the trends here. Any questions on that first section from anybody? Makes sense? Yeah. Okay, so let's look at some trend lines. IS right now, as far as I know, is the only industry sector segment that has negative unemployment. There aren't enough people. So there's not enough IS professionals to meet demand today, and all the projections say we're going to need 4x, 3x, 5x the amount of IS professionals over the next 4 years. So even if you did have the recs out, and even if you were approved for that budget we just talked about, good luck finding them. I'm in the same boat, guys. I've got to hire consultants every day. It's hard to find, right? So we're fighting that battle. Let's move forward. Then we're also facing in some of our changes and our trends is you have to look at what's coming to you in terms of workforce. Workforce, consumer, and the way they interact with systems and what their expectations are and how they work, right? I was the first guy in my office in my career to have an email address, believe it or not. That's a scary notion, right? So life changes, generations change. The digital native today is a pretty big threat to you, both externally and internally. These are people that grew up with technology. Technology is a core component of their life. If you don't believe me, go to the average airport, see how many people actually are looking up and how many people are on their tablet or phone. It's their primary form of life. Without it, life ends. If any of you have 14-year-old daughters who have lost their phone, you'd understand that statement, right? So, they think differently. They're very adept. They use lots of technologies. They use technologies that are different than the technologies we use. I can't even keep up with what's latest now. Snapchat, Vine, whatever, right? They have different expectations. One of the other interesting trend lines with them is they have this lack of intellectual property or privacy concerns. Think of their world. Think how you become famous in their world. And we all know the stories, right? Kim Kardashian's famous for a lot of things, right? So this is what they grew up. This is what they understand. So if they're not real concerned about posting naked pictures of themselves on the internet, how concerned do you think they are about posting your financials on the internet? They don't think like we think. They think differently. Plus they interact differently. Work-life balance is important, right? We don't want to work 68 hours a week like our dads did, right? We want to balance, we want to experience life. So the time is coming, and it already has in some cases, where your vice president of sales is going to pick up today, and he's going to say, you know what? This weekend, I want to go to Africa. He's going to post his apartment up on Airbnb. He's going to connect with one of his social buddies in Africa. They're going to set up an Uber ride. They're going to go over to Mount Kilimanjaro, hike the mountain. They'll post it on whatever they're using today in terms of social communication about how great their life is and look what I'm doing. And I'm on the mountain and I'm working. And then one of his buddies is going to contact him and say, why are you there? Shouldn't you be working? Are you not happy? Well, I'm not thrilled with my job. Why don't you come work for us? Sure. Well, while you're coming over, why don't you send your client lists over? Sure. How are you going to defend that? It's an extreme example. I'm just trying to make a point. This is how we operate today. Let's move forward. So this is just consumerization challenges as well. So yeah, it's scary enough the digital native becomes the employee. And expectations of how they're going to work changes, how they interact with your information changes, and whether or not they should keep your information private and secure changes, right? That's bad enough. Now you have the consumer side of it that affects you as well. So on the far left-hand side in orange there, even though it's a woman, a picture of a woman, I like to use the example of my father. The father wants a pizza. He looks up a pizza parlor in the Yellow Pages, drives down to the pizza shop, meets the pizza owner, buys his pizza, probably pays in cash, and goes home. I'm in the middle. Probably should be a little rounder, but that's me, and I do like pizza. So the guy in the middle is me, right? I don't do any of that. Dad, you're crazy. I Google pizza shops, find some websites, order my pizza online, have it delivered to the house, pay with a credit card online. Digital native sends an emoji of a pizza to Domino's, whoever's doing that now, right? And gets the pizza that way. Lack of interaction on a social scale, right? Who are you buying from? Do you really trust the person you're buying from? Where are you storing your credit card information? Who has access to your credit card information? Think of the change of that over that time span between those three types of people. My dad actually knows who he bought his pizza from. I have no idea. Let's move on. Then we throw in Internet of Things. Of course, that's the big buzzword, right? The reality here, what's important, is growth of devices. So back again, 20 years ago, IT was dumb terminals, a Unix machine, and it was pretty easy. Next thing you know, you were responsible for the phones. Then anything that had a plug in it became your responsibility. And your life changed. Number of things you had to do in a given day changed. Number of things you had to defend in a given day changed. We're talking about a trend line of billions of devices. The average worker had one device 10 years ago. Then it moved to 1.5 or 2 because of the phone, cell phone. Now you're up to 3 or 4 per person. And that doesn't account for all the things that they're going to interoperate in the next few years. Refrigerators, TVs, cars, you name it. All will have to be defended. And then, of course, the shift to cloud platform, right? So it's hard enough to defend when it's sitting in front of you and you have control over it. Now you start to move your information assets and your critical business applications into the cloud. You move your data storage into the cloud. You have less control. Some of those companies will be good at it, and defending and protecting your information and securing their borders and their data centers. Some of them won't. Google Cloud application providers or cloud platform providers, there are thousands. Who do you pick? Where do you go? Who can you trust? Does the average 22-year-old who's running iCloud Me or whatever they design today really have a good grasp on security and privacy and protection? Good question, right? So we've devised a strategy we call modern threat defense, and we're going to get into that in a moment. Any questions on the trend lines? No? Okay. Hopefully helpful information. Yes? Fairly consistent, right? And it's going to be all over the map. Yes, it's fairly consistent. And it's like any other thing. If you look at the cost of breach, you can get a number that's anywhere from $125 a record to $300 or $400. You have to kind of normalize data the best you can to get good, meaningful information sets and metric sets. But thank you. I mean, the trends are there, right? It's not about the number being right. It's about the trend being right? So any more questions? Good point. Thank you. No? Okay. Modern threat. So methodology-wise, I'm a pretty simple guy. I try to keep things pretty simple for myself so I can remember them. Everybody's got their terms. CISSP terms are different. I like policy identification enforcement because it spells out PI. So you get the point. Okay. So in my mind, when we defend, the goal of defense is reduction of attack surface. Right? And you've heard it over and over again. You cannot eliminate all risk. It's impossible. But you can reduce your attack surface. You can make yourself less susceptible to attack. Right? You can be a less enticing target from the threat actor. So there are strategies to do that and reduce. For me, on the policy side, I will tell you most organizations I visit and work with have pretty good policy sets. Sometimes they atrophy. The example of that, of course, is when BYOD rolled out a few years ago. No one had a policy for that. No one knew what to do. So there's times where you're up or down. But for the most part, I would give most organizations an A to a B plus on the policy side. They know what they want to do. They know what they need to secure. They've got a good handle on it. We skip down to enforcement. I would say most organizations, I'm going to give you a B grade there. You know what policy is. You know what you want to do to enforce it. In most cases, you do enforce, although there is sometimes a breakdown in process. Target failed again because of a breakdown in an internal process. It wasn't about knowing they were being breached. It was about what were they going to do after they realized. They couldn't move fast enough. Nobody had authority to make decisions, right? Where everybody fails, for the most part, is in identification. Your ability to detect the threat and understand the threat. And that has changed. We were winning for a while. We got ahead of the threat actors. Today we are not. When I started in this industry, there was somewhere around 25,000-ish malware variants per year. And those numbers were obviously year over year increasing. Today, you're getting 65,000 to 70,000 malware variants per month. The volume is incredible. The other interesting statistic there is out of those malware variants, a large portion of it is one-off design. So if you look at Verizon Threat Report and some other areas, you can find some good information there. I think out of the top 250 companies, the biggest companies that were breached over the last 2 years, 65 or 70% of those were customized, one-off, specialized malware attacks, built for purpose. So that's who you're facing, right? Most solutions cannot keep up with that today, flat out. So again, it's not about spending more and throwing more technology at the problem. It's about the realization that maybe the technology sets we have are not doing the job, and we need to transform our environment, shift our spend, modernize our strategies. All right? Move forward. So again, I'm a simple guy. I like to keep things pretty easy to understand for myself. So this is how we look at an enterprise. And it's not, again, an end-all to be-all. I'm not saying you don't need other forms of security or other layers of security or other forms of defense. I'm saying in our world, we believe this is where you should be focused. So for us, there's an in and out to your business. And if we simplify it down, we need to keep bad from coming inbound, and we need to keep our good quality information from going outbound in ways we don't want. It's that simple. To me, from a layer approach, I think you need layers. It's important to have layers. I think the focus layers right now are internet perimeter, the device layer, and the information store layer. Internet perimeter is not a firewall. It's not a hardened physical location. Internet perimeter is anywhere your employees can access the internet. How many people have a smartphone in the room? How many people download apps on their smartphones? How many people read the T's and C's on your smartphone app downloads? Good, good. I do. Not always. You're IS people. You know better. He's not. Look at him. That's our core group right there. Okay? So, again, places for exposure, places for threat to be introduced, right? So we have to defend at the internet perimeter everywhere we can. Device layer, that's obvious. Information store layer, last line of defense. Because we learned earlier in the presentation, cyber criminal, threat actor, what is he after 99% of the time? Information, right? That's what they want. So that's our approach. That's what we think you need to focus on, where your energy needs to be with your limited resources, your limited finances, and your limited ability to look at things all day long. So, I'm a firm believer in layers, but I'm also a firm believer in as much unification as reasonably possible. Do I think your environment needs to be a brand centric 100%? I would never do that. Right? Do I think you can consolidate and unify under a few brands, have more holistic security, have brands that integrate with each other, allow you easier management, lower cost of ownership, and more time to focus? Absolutely. And that is generally my direction. So that is what we're looking at here. So this is a healthcare organization, purposely obfuscated out vendor names, brand names here, but they transform their environment. So color-coded, that's a brand. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 core technologies that defend those layers for them and provide adequate defense. So if we think about it, what are we looking at? Reduction of risk, reduction of attack surface through layers, through coordinated technology. That's not 20 or 40 solutions, that's 5. In their particular case, this build saved them about $2 million annually in hard cost and allowed their meager staff to actually focus and run their systems instead of running around patching everything. They increased their vigilance, a better defense through less technology. Imagine that. Okay? Let's move forward. This is my favorite one. This is a financial services entity, a very large one, upwards of over 30,000 seats. Went to a very consolidated strategy, 3 vendors. So when I say effective attack surface reduction, this is a great example. On the front end of this, because of the layers they had coming down through the internet perimeter, they were able to detect and defeat at the perimeter somewhere in the order of 97% of their inbound threat. Not everything. Can't reduce all risk, right? Coming back down the next layer at the device layer, they killed it all. So that's an extreme example. But plus 30,000 seats, financial services entity, in 2 years, they have not reimaged an endpoint machine for malware. It's impressive, right? Yes. So that's what we're building out. This is the kind of stack that we're looking at. So again, it's a strategy, right? It's a way to effectively use the limited funds you have. Again, become more robust in terms of your defense, provide you with more time, and allow you to defend more effectively. If you have questions, I'll take them. That's it.
Can you elaborate a little bit more about the specific tool set that they were using? Don't need it, but to get a better idea of how, because that's pretty major on that.
Yeah.
Having worked for an FI, worked with 5 different things.
Sure.
Love that tool.
Yeah. And it's interesting, right? So primary technologies there, obviously, from ingestion standpoint, denial of service type things, right? Coming in a very robust web security layer is probably the primary component in that, with high capability there. And then at the endpoint layer, not traditional antivirus. So we're moving to lockdown technologies, right? Technologies that, fight the battle by not allowing things to execute locally. So you think of modern malware, once you request it, once it defeats your internet perimeter, it doesn't sit on the network and it doesn't attack the device, traditionally, right? It runs in upper memory. That's why antivirus is ineffective. So lockdown solutions keep things from executing. And that's how they do it. And then next layer down, at the information store layer, we're looking at data activity monitoring, file activity monitoring type solutions. Again, looking at access rights, who's touching what's happening there, and then coming back around, data loss solutions coupled with insider threat solutions. And the difference there, for those of you who aren't familiar, data loss is event driven, right? Don't send out a list of 100 credit card numbers through your Gmail account. It's very event specific. Insider threat technology is user specific. So it's behavioral. It's looking at what a user does day to day, normalizing my activity on the network for the last 10 years, and I get upset and I decide to move on. And even because I have extreme access rights, I start accessing systems I shouldn't be or haven't for 10 years. So my risk score is elevating. So now I'm looking at individual. So I'm not a security event driven. I'm individual driven. Who's the person who's going to cause me a problem? Yes, sir. I would, yes. The bold statement, I know. But to me, antivirus is ineffective, right? And I know you need it from an audit perspective. That's what the auditors think you need. They're always behind, right? But it's not working. So for me, you can take those dollars that you're spending in antivirus, and this organization specifically took their AV dollars, used it for lockdown solutions, and then they used the free antivirus they get in their Microsoft agreement to check the box. Free is always nice for a checkbox. I don't know about you guys, but CFO loves that, right? So that's that. That's how they're doing it. And then all the way on the top there, we go way up the top on the outbound side, CASB solutions, cloud access security brokers that allow you to control the flow of information, malware detection, and single sign-on out on the cloud side. It's a good question. Anybody else? I'm here all day. Yeah? Okay, thank you.